One of the great things about the United States is its separation of church and state. The United States is not a theocracy. In other words, our country is not ruled by the law of any religion. With that in mind, I oppose any government run by a religion, because they always seem to discriminate against any religion that's not their own. Even if well-intentioned, these governments often get taken over by extremists and bigots and zealots. I believe everyone has a right to practice whatever religion they want. And to be clear, I don't hate Muslims or their religion, but I oppose extremists, criminals, terrorists, and the brand of Sharia law promoted by groups such as ISIS, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda, and others who the United States government has designated as terrorists, because they target those who oppose their bigotry and terrorism for discrimination and violence. Their terrorism and values violate U.S. civil rights. As you will see shortly, these extremists and their apologists victimize anyone who opposes their bigotry. But let's start with some light news from Dogshitistan, formerly known as the state of California. Now, here's some reasons why I coined the term Dogshitistan for the state of California. Here are some fast facts about Dogshitistan. There is shit everywhere on the sidewalks in the city of San Francisco. Dogshitistan has the highest rate of income inequality in the United States. Dogshitistan has the highest rate of homelessness in the United States. Dogshitistan recently had a typhus epidemic. Dogshitistan decriminalized knowingly giving people AIDS. And Dogshitistan had a hepatitis epidemic and a flu epidemic. Now, there are other reasons I could talk about why I've coined Dogshitistan as the new name for California, but that's probably a video all on its own. With that out of the way, let's move on. So, Zero Hedge, back on the 25th of September, reported man arrested with shrapnel-covered explosive devices near Los Angeles. Police in Southern California arrested 47-year-old Saleh Ali last week after two active improvised explosive devices were discovered in his vehicles that would readily explode when exposed to flame. They were found during a routine traffic stop for an expired registration, according to Brea Police Lieutenant Adam Hawley. The devices were containers covered in shrapnel, which contained explosive material. Now, the other takeaway from this article, you can read it again. The links will be in the description. Ali had two prior convictions in Passaic County, New Jersey, for aggravated assault with a serious bodily injury and terrorist threats, according to court records, and will return to court on September 28 for a pretrial hearing. Now, what are the takeaways for this article? Well, first and foremost, this guy is a known and convicted terrorist, and of course, he had explosives in his possession. Now, you may not have heard about it because most news outlets in the mainstream media didn't actually report on it. In fact, when I went to CNN, I did a search for Saleh Ali in the United States section. You can see on the left, it's highlighted. And there were 9 results. None of them, as I scroll through them, none of them have Saleh Ali here, or this arrest, or this terrorist incident. CNN never reported on it. I searched for MSNBC, Saleh Ali, from the date of September 1st to September 30th. And again, if we go back, you see September 25th, and he was arrested last week. So sometime in September, I did a search, 0 stories came up. What are they afraid of? Why aren't they willing to report this? Now, the reason I bring this up is because I think it's a nice segue into talking about the European Court of Human Rights. Now, again, using Zero Hedge as my source, their article, European Court of Human Rights Blasphemy Laws, where a word out of place can cost you your life. The European Court of Human Rights ruled that criticism of Muhammad constitutes incitement to hatred, meaning that in Europe, criticizing Muhammad is no longer protected free speech. What the court has actually done, however, is rule out the possibility of any debate in which a range of various experts and members of the public could take part. Now, it seems, the only views that will be respected in the public forum are those of devout Muslims. Underage marriages are considered by some countries child abuse or statutory rape, but are acceptable under Sharia law. They also take place in Muslim communities in Western countries such as the United Kingdom. This alone is a major reason why platforms must be found to debate the issue instead of sweeping it as something offensive under the carpet. Ignoring it is offensive. And I agree. This is a huge issue. The European Court of Human Rights defends pedophilia as long as the child abuser follows Sharia law. The second takeaway is that the European Court of Human Rights doesn't actually give a shit about human rights. And the third takeaway is this: the European Court of Human Rights believes that Sharia law supersedes human rights. So with the European Court of Human Rights defending child abuse under Sharia law, what is big tech's response? Well, it's to defend it, of course. You see, Google approves app for Muslims to report people who commit blasphemy. This is from Big League Politics. A new Android app has launched with the focus of allowing Muslims to report individuals who commit blasphemy or insult Islam. No, this is not a joke. The app, Smart Pakam, was launched in Indonesia last month at the request of the Indonesian government, will allow users and government officials to uphold Sharia law and target and report people who hold misguided beliefs in violation of Islamic law, which forbids insults of Islam, insults against the Prophet Muhammad, or the recognition of any other religion besides Islam. Rajan Anadan, who serves as the VP of Google in Southeast Asia, has not shown any resistance to the app, which is available in the Google App Store. Stephen Evans, who serves as the chief executive of NSS, said Google's decision to stock the Sharia app was incongruous with Google's mission statement and runs directly contrary to the democratic ideals which Google says it stands for. Evans also said the app will normalize restrictions on freedom of expression in Indonesia and elsewhere. Well, guess what, Steve? You're a little bit late because Google's already demonstrated that it doesn't like free speech, so you're a day late and $1 short. But with that in mind, let's talk about the takeaways. We now have Google defending Sharia law, which, by the way, includes Sharia law-sanctioned child abuse. This app is on their app store, and it helps Sharia-sanctioned child abusers target those who speak out against them. It's sort of like a reverse sex offender registry. So rather than record the sex offender so we all know who they are, anybody who speaks out against the sex offenders, those people get targeted instead. Good job, Google. Well, when it comes to protecting women, surely Sweden, the world's first feminist-controlled country, would protect women, right? Wrong. According to the Gatestone Institute, Sweden, women raped, authorities too busy. All right? According to Michaela Blixt, after a man attacked her in the street and tried to rape her, the police did nothing, even though she knew where her attacker lived and could have easily identified him. The Swedish mainstream media outlet, Expressen, wanted to interview Blixt, but according to her, only on condition that she not mention that her attacker was an Afghan migrant. Sweden stated its government in November 2015 has a feminist government. We place gender equality at the heart of both national and international work. The overall objective of the government's gender equality policy is equal power for women and men to shape society and their own lives. This is ultimately a question of democracy and social justice. Wait a minute. Shouldn't women living under a feminist government be able to, at a bare minimum, leave their homes without fear of becoming victims of sexual assault? 22,000 sexual crimes were reported in 2017 to the Swedish police. 7,370 of them rapes, according to the Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention. That number corresponds to an average of 20 reported rapes per day, twice as many as in 2005. Those are just the reported rapes. In 2012, for instance, only 20% of all rapes were reported to the police, according to BRA. Now, let me tell you about the story that really inspired this article, and this story is extremely tragic. Here we go. Getting the police to even file a report of an attempted rape against a woman is, to say the least, difficult. Itself a sign that something is rotten in the feminist kingdom of Sweden. In the little town of Deje, in central Sweden, for example, an Afghan migrant who lives at the migrant center in town recently assaulted, knifed, and attempted to rape a woman, Michaela Blixt, as she was walking her dog in broad daylight. The attacker first kicked Blix's small dog into the air and then forced Blix to the ground and cut her hip with a knife. She managed to escape from her attacker and made it home with her dog. Shocked and bleeding, she tried to report the assault to the police. That proved almost impossible. When Blix called the Swedish Emergency Services phone line, the police refused to even talk to her. They told her that as the attack was no longer in process, she would have to call the non-emergency number. So let me get this straight. So you're in the middle of being raped, right? So you're like, hold on for a second between thrusts. You're going to pull out your phone and you're going to dial whatever their emergency line number is. Excuse me, I'm being raped right at this moment. Like, that's ridiculous. It's so ridiculously offensive. Anyway, let's continue. If you want to report the assault, you will have to suffer a bit of phone queue, the policewoman warned her, according to Blix. After spending nearly an entire day in vain trying to get through to the police on the phone, she drove the next day to the nearest police station in the neighboring town, where 24 hours after the assault, the police finally took a report. After Blix's visit to the police station, she saw evidence of her sexual assault hanging outside the migrant center. The trousers her attacker had worn had been washed and hung out to dry, but may still have had traces of her blood on them. She notified the police, but they did not have the time to come that day to secure the evidence. In fact, according to Blix, the police did nothing, even though she knew where her attacker lived and could have easily identified him. Blix wrote about her experience on a local community Facebook page in an apparent attempt to get in touch with another woman who had been raped in the area 2 weeks earlier. Blix's post was shared thousands of times, which led the police to contact Blix and admonish her that she was damaging their ongoing investigation, which, to all appearances, was not even slightly ongoing. The police also refused to publicize the description of the perpetrator, claiming incomprehensibly that the perpetrator might make the investigation more difficult. Apparently, identifying a suspect is a bad thing, according to the feminist police forces of Sweden. Think about that for a moment. Again, think about that. This is why you don't let feminists have power, because on a good day, they are retarded. Let's move on. Even though the police supposedly had neither the time nor the resources to attend to that attempted rape, they did show up in force when 80 citizens of Deje gathered in a demonstration in solidarity with Blix and against violence. 2 police patrols and a policeman in civilian clothes came to watch over the peaceful event, and once it had ended, charged its organizer with violating the public order. Apparently, he had not applied for permission to demonstrate. Swedish police have no problem with migrant rapists, but do not suffer unannounced peaceful demonstrations. Welcome to feminist Sweden. You let feminism run your country, and this is what happens. Now, let's talk about the takeaways. If the sex abuser is a migrant or follows Sharia law in Sweden, feminist Sweden protects the abuser, not the woman. The Swedish police won't investigate a sexual assault, but they will arrest anyone who speaks out against it. And thanks to immigration policies, it appears that Sweden is the rape capital of first world countries. And finally, this also demonstrates that feminists don't give a shit about women. Now, surely feminism in the United States would take a stand against Sharia-approved sexual assault and child abuse, right? Wrong again. According to PJ Media, women's rights activist Linda Sarsour is empowering radical Islamic torture, terror, and rape. Women's March founder Linda Sarsour is empowering the radical Islam that oppresses women across the world, inspiring sex slavery, child marriage, and female genital mutilation, a best-selling author and women's rights activist told PJ Media on Friday. Linda Sarsour is promoting Sharia law and misleading Americans. She never mentions child marriage, genital mutilation, or honor killings. She's empowering their side, not us. She's encouraging these barbaric people. She's encouraging them and contributing to them, to women being sold and girls being raped every day. Women and children are suffering under Sharia law and in the Middle East. Our girls are being sold into sexual slavery every single day. 4-year-old babies are being sold into ISIS. Little girls aged 7 to 14 are being sold as child brides. This is pedophilia and rape by marriage. Women like Linda Sarsour are misleading Americans to think that all women in the Middle East are happy to wear headscarves and to be slaves. She's the one who is helping the people who are doing this to us. She is encouraging those barbaric people in their torture, terror, and rape. She's helping them. She's not defending our rights at all. Shame on her. All the child brides and all the honored killing victims, genital mutilation victims, shame on Linda Sarsour. Now, this is coming from the Middle Eastern Women's Coalition president. Remember that. Those aren't my words. They're her words. This is another feminist talking about Linda Sarsour. American feminists, by promoting Sharia law, they promote child abuse, genital mutilation, and sex slavery. Linda Sarsour is a liar, but feminists always lie, so really that's not a surprise. The thing is, Americans value the freedom of speech. We oppose child abuse, whether or not the child is a product of a forced marriage or sex slavery. To Americans, the separation of church and state is just as important to us. Consequently, Sharia law and the discrimination that comes with it runs counter to American constitutional rights, American values, and our way of life. This is because what is legal under Sharia law are considered crimes not only in the United States, but in the rest of the civilized world. If you're a U.S. citizen, here's something to think about. What are you willing to do to protect our Constitution and our children from Sharia-sanctioned child abuse and sex slavery? I only ask because our Constitution and our way of life will only last as long as our ability to defend them. And those violent leftist protests you keep hearing about, those are the enemies at the gates. I'm DDJ, and this has been your dose of misandry today.